Welcome back to Potatoes, to episode 16 of Empyrion Galactic Survival Multiplayer on Grandpa's Gaming, the Lost City of Soul server. This episode will take a look at some updates that I have done in the past week since arriving at this location. We have certainly done a lot of building. I have done, I should say, I suppose, here on the base, and I have started working on taking over the ground systems. Here at the base, we'll take it quickly, but in a brief nutshell, because it is such a hostile space play field, heat is definitely an issue here. So I have added to all the exterior doorways this warning radioactive sign. Just little tweaks here and there, updating the base aside from a few blocks here and there that I missed on textures and paints and the like. But as you can see, I have them in all the hallways, so it does add a little bit of bling to the build as well. That is the first of the two updates that I did here. Actually, there's really three major updates, but the second is actually on board the crypt, so we'll go ahead and take a look in there, because there is now a new dock and a new vessel on board. And I do have the crypt powered down, as you can see. I should have turned that on if I was thinking, but simply because here in an oxygen atmosphere, it doesn't actually lose the plants up in the greenhouse. They do not grow without the light, of course, but they do actually survive the ordeal. But as you can see in front of us here, that is a new ship. And underneath, you can see I have actually added a docking pad for it. We'll take a better look at the ship shortly, but the docking pad, as I get up in it, it is a fly off it scenario because it is a little too high up to reach, but the Kaza Capital vessel, of course, is in space quite a bit anyway. And okay, moving on, there we go. It's a little tricky to dock, so I'll likely dock it afterwards, but just wanted to get a look of the additional bay. It does still work as a passage underneath, so even when the ship is docked, you can run underneath it and just look up, and it is close enough to the ground, even when we're standing, that we can still access the control panel. So the third structural build that I have been working on, though it is far from complete, is actually an expansion to the base. So let's go take a look at that. So on the way over to the new additions, just take a quick look here, as there are two additional repair stations here on the base. These two draugrs actually are configured for use of any visitors at the base, so they can easily jump in and harvest any of the resource ring that we do have around this playfield. We've also toyed a little bit and brought in a wraith and added some additional OP style weapons. This is actually the prototype of an OP build, which I have yet to update or upload, but I will do that soon. When that is done, likely by the time I publish this episode, I will include that in the episode description below, as well as a link to the Draugr, which is in fact published. You will note, however, with the Draugr that this is a drilling ship, so you will in fact require editing your config ECF file. But it possesses 12 of the mining lasers, as well as 10 Gatling guns. It's a fairly rounded shape, so it's easy to maneuver and rotate in place while you're mining. It does function both in space and on ground with the alterations that we have done with the config ECF. However, I do find that it is really not beneficial to do it on ground. You end up with a huge crater. You're actually better, in my personal opinion, just to use the mining drill the way it's currently configured. In space, however, it is certainly very beneficial, much more economical than using a capital drill turret. They only have a 20-meter range as opposed to the 80, I believe, the turret has. So it's only a quarter of the distance, but being that it's so much more maneuverable, you can really drill right in. So we'll take a look at that now, and I will edit in a clip here just of a description of and a test run to show you how beautifully the ship does work in space, and we'll take a look at the control panel there as well. So here we are for a test demonstration of the Draugr. As you can see, it does have quite a few spotlights in all directions. Figured in the hole you'd want to see in each direction. Even if we spin around behind and the like, it lights everything up all around you. There are both sets of spotlights, or you can just use running lights if your eyes are a little better than mine, which just kind of creates a glow, but those really don't have the range, so that's not my personal preference. But both are certainly there as options for you. Like most of my ships, it has both the movement and the afterburner settings. For space, movement certainly has seemed adequate. However, in high gravity, if you're moving around on planet, it can be a little better to use the afterburners to get out of your holes. And I know this is a little washed out, so go ahead though, just to start drilling. As you can see, it really chews through the asteroids quite quickly. And it appears in the harvest box, of course, as all harvest vehicles do. So it is really quite easy to move around and dodge in and out, rotate around. As you can see, if I actually drill into the rock a little bit, just do this as an example. And if we get inside, even if we tunnel quite far in a fairly straight line, the ship easily just spins around right in place and can travel out the same hole. That is the benefit of a rounded ship for this application over some of the longer, thinner vehicles that I have seen being created on the server since we have activated this capability. The only thing that this vessel really does not contain is a warp drive. As you can see on my particular scenario that we are running here on the server, there are quite a few that are local to my area here. We are here on Bolshi, but the yellow wormholes, of course, are short vehicle range, less than 15, and from here I can hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, counting 8 different systems that are all within small vessel range. So that will certainly be worthwhile to make the trip. So what I have done is simply gone in and placed in the equipment box a warp drive and core, so we'll take those with us as we're traveling about. And if I decide to go to different systems, I can slap it on the back and then remove it as soon as we get there, since they are not required for the drilling itself, and they will not be in the way and taking damage as I do the drilling. So with that said, let's go ahead and continue our storyline and return back to the last of the additions in space. And now that you've seen that in action, we'll go ahead and spin around to the other major update that I have been working on the past day or two, and that is additional towers. With the upcoming Alpha 8, which is now on the third build, I want to say, as I speak to you at the moment on the experimental branch, so they are working hard on it. But there are 2 additional crops that we will be able to grow for a total of 16 plants. The 2 new crops that we will receive in Alpha 8.0 are the mushrooms and spices, both of which are used for making food and or medicine. So those crops are going to be very additional to have, or very nice to have in addition, I should say. But as you can see in front of you, there are 2 new tower frameworks. We'll go out quickly, though we can't stay out very long. I'm sure you'll see my heat get hot quickly, but they're certainly in process and quite a bit to go. But this is the actual extension that will come out this direction, because this will also become the 3rd of the dual height bays. Gamer Keller still has his ship up top, as you can see, the heavy carrier, but that was simply too tall to fit even in the 28. So this one I am going to make taller yet thinner. It will only be 28 wide for the upper regions due to the limitations that we are forced to use with the limitations in the force field sizes. However, we will be able to make it tall enough in the center where the tower that is at the top of Keller's ship, for example, it's kind of the one I'm building it as a model. As you can see, if we get it to the background here, it is simply too tall to fit underneath in this bay, which is 28 high. So he had to land it on the top. So I'm working on setting up an additional bay for his or other vessels that may be taller to fit in there. And they do, of course, down below, use the drone this time so I don't cook myself, but they are basically mirror builds to the other towers. They are still in process of texturing and painting this one, of course, but they have the 68 plots on the inside of each one, and again have the glass walkways that will get in. I will continue up on the top side with filling the bucket at the top of the tower, as well as the truss work, etc., which you can plainly see has not been done as yet. So those are the main updates that I have done here in space. The next thing that's order of business will be to set up on the moon. I do have a number of water generators and such down already, which are occupying a small island, which I will take you to momentarily. But on that island, I am going to set up a facility specifically for water generation. I have approximately, let's see, I have 24 water generators down right now, as well as a dozen hydrogen and 2 oxygen, which of course were created before they removed them from the game. They can no longer be crafted, so I did take those with me, and we'll use them temporarily, though we will be forced to go water only in the future with Alpha 8. So I will increase, put anywhere between 6 and 12 factories down there specifically to refine the water into oxygen or hydrogen, as well as put a ring of them around the island of the generators, that is, to really amp up production, so there will be more water than we know what to do with. So let's go ahead and jump in the Spectre, and we will head down there and show you the spot and begin our build, because I do have all the blocks crafted and on board the Spectre in prep, so it will be just a matter of building the base. So here we have arrived on the planet. As we approach the rising sun, we can see as it's getting lighter that the world is a quite colorful planet. Lots of different colors and the like on it. planet is fairly slow. Once we take a look at the map, now I'll grant I have mined most of the resources out. However, I really haven't taken out any bases here on the planet yet. And as you can see, there are only a couple on this world. One of which, of course, is the drone base. That's a fairly standard installment in most planets. But this one is a little different than most drone bases you will see, although it is not exactly as I first found it, I will admit, because as we approach it, you will see it's pretty empty. Because right now, this drone base is actually a green base. I have actually wiped this one out, as you can see now, the square hole appearing in the ground, along with the hole in the center that I drilled down. So wanted to get that out of the way simply so we could build our base in peace and not be concerned with using lower quality materials such as concrete and standard glass. So we will head over now to what I have listed as the water generators, which is actually near this world's trade station. So we'll head over that direction, and I will see you there. There's a fairly nice shot of a meteor coming in. You see those on the horizon sometimes, but not as often as you might suspect. Continue on back where we're going, because iron is not a material we need. Silicon, however, is extremely crucial to me at this point in time, as I am literally out of it. I have none left because I have continued on the base up in the star area, the star base. So we'll take a look at that towards the end of the episode to what we have done. Nonetheless, as you can see here, we have a very small little island which I'm going to set up with a whole bunch of the water generators. This seems like a perfect location for that type of a deal. I will likely flatten it out so I can place the water generators, and as well as some hydrogen generators, as you can see under us, some of the original hydrogen and water and oxygen generators rather that we do have with us. This will be among the last that you see of them, because Alpha 8 Experimental is currently in Phase 3 as I am speaking to you at the moment. So they will likely be updating that very shortly to the next phase. They are making headway, so I know the time is limited as far as that is concerned. So we'll start a little flattening and prepping things up here. I'll harvest these generators and the like and get things set up. This little island generally is fairly safe. There is one spawn point here on the island, and there have been a couple of the plant men appear, so the base, I will put some guns on it just to be safe, so I can come here and not even consider it. But that's the plan at this point, and we will proceed forward, pick up those generators to get them out of the way, start flattening, and I'll bring you back when we have a decent setup to begin our base. So here it is, daylight on the next day. I've been kind of puttering a little bit, a little experimentation with flattening and the like, but I wanted to get the core at the right altitude for one thing. So I have placed it a few times. You can actually see a couple of the ghost images behind. There's one over there. I guess there's only the one now, but still, that white remaining name tag that we've seen in the past certainly have occurred. But with this altitude of the blocks, you can see that once placed in the water, you can actually place a block and it will be half up. That will seal the compartment although it's not critical on an oxygen world that we're on, yet allow us access to all the devices. So I will continue this around the edge until we run out of the generators. I have brought 50 with me. As you can see, I experimented a little bit here with some of the flattening first. I was considering extending it out quite a bit, but that really did not appear to work. And as you can see, the water is not flowing water in Empyrion, of course, so the blocks that were water are jagged edged here because I flattened it back too far in. So that is a bit unfortunate, but we can touch that up as we build the base further. So at this point, I guess I will proceed forward and get at least the framework done before I bring you back in, and we'll get our generators back down surrounding. I think I will head more to the right, which is where the screwball patch is over there, so I can touch that up and cover it with blocks. But I'm facing it kind of pointing towards the trade station, basically, was my outlook on it, which is also in the westward direction, so that points to sunrise, and then the sunset, of course, on the other side, even though we are on the northern border. So we'll continue forward as discussed, and I'll speak with you shortly. So today we've made some headway, done some more building here on the island. Have a ring around the outside as described earlier, going around close to half the circle. There's actually 100 water generators down now, so there'll be more than enough, as well as a bunch of storage over here to hold it in. I may extend this and add some more as yet. Also created a growth area laid out with 30 plots, which will be enough to grow 6, or is it 24? It's either 6 or 24, I guess, actually, as I do the math in my head. Canned goods as needed, and there will be additional refrigerators and the like around this room by the time it's done. Have some generators and such over here as well, and medical facility. This will, of course, get dressed up and much nicer by the time we're done, but this is just a basic layout of where it's starting. And we will continue from here and proceed forward before we move forward to the next step. So here at the end of the day of building, we have all the buildings pretty much complete. I may do another cargo pod over here in the corner, but I am going to add a landing pad right in the center area here. But that will just about finish up the base, other than shaping it, so it's not just a bunch of square blocks and such, decorating and the like. But we now have a fully functional water station with a ring of generators around the factories, or the constructors rather. There's a dozen in there, all of which have iron ore in them already, so it's just a matter of throwing the water in and starting them up, and you can make whichever you would like. And here we are a few days later, actually, but as you can see, the base is pretty much complete. Did get the landing pad in, as I had mentioned, as well as the additional cargo storage over here, and rounded them off a little bit just to make them a little nicer. At this point, really all that's left will be just to head back up to base. I have done quite a substantial amount of work on the base in the past week or so. I believe I've already shown the beginnings of the towers, but I'll give you a quick run through of the changes that have occurred at the base that I have done in the past week or so. The server has been fairly quiet of late. I think everyone is getting ready for Alpha 8. A couple are simply taking a break, real world stuff, whether it be medical issues or local activities required. So we will go ahead and harvest some of these water generators and take a load back up to the excuse me. So we will take a load back up to the base and resupply these, and then take a run through the base, and you can see some of the changes and additional expansions that I have done there. So here we are back at the base. It should be about the final clip of this episode. I know it will be a bit of a shorter episode, but as you can see, the base has been completed with a couple minor exceptions, which I will detail in a moment. But to start, we saw off in this general direction is where the two additional towers, which I do believe I had shown in previous clips. These two towers out to the side a little bit are the new ones for the two new crops, and I have in fact adjusted them. It's actually flag, it's a little quicker to move, but I've moved the LCD labels around to keep them in alphabetical fashion. These last two towers are towers O and P, still sticking with the letter name frame, but as you can see, it is a taller bay overall and is entirely enclosed and ventilated, as you can see in the lower left. But this is actually tall enough with some of the force fields mounted in a sideways fashion, so this is actually either 7 or 14 higher than the other two bays. I think it's 7. Yeah, 7 higher. Close it in with glass so you can still see through to the outside and the like, but you get a nice view of the tower. This is of course off to the side. And also along the other side, as we move our way across here, the side that I had set up for the graveyard, the lower tier, or the lower height, I should say, internal landing bays. This one has been extended out to the side a bit more, and up above there is now a second level, so we can actually fit a second vessel that is no more than 14 high, as that is the size of the force fields used, and they are both enclosed as well. I think that's really just about it for the primary changes. I have not removed the spotlights from the base. I am gambling that they will return the allow placing at line in the config command to allow for that. If not, I will simply use the SBP or spawn blueprint command to spawn it and then trash the resources, just to keep it as a matter of fair play. I don't believe in free items when actually playing. However, I will overcome a shortcoming in their configuration or change in their configuration in that regard. So I will keep the spotlights on it. However, the other thing that will need to be changed is that they have recently removed the capability to have grown plants in your blueprints. That includes both bases and capital vessels. So as you are preparing your blueprints for Alpha 8 Live, I would strongly recommend you remove every plant. Now, I will be doing that in Creative myself. I will spawn it in Alpha 8 and remove all the plants, and in the process add a few of the newer blocks that are part of the Alpha 8 update in the base in Alpha 8 Creative. I will continue to update from the next couple weeks until it is live. I doubt I will get another video created before Alpha 8 is live, but I will be spending time to update all the blueprints, remove things that have changed, such as the constructors. I have been having some problems, as some of you may recall from previous episodes that were not capable of spawning, and I am going on the premise that that is because they do still have the original mobile constructors, which were combination. They could be used in either small vessels or hover vessels, but the new ones are specifically for one or the other. That is one example, and there may be other blocks that need to be altered a little bit as well. So that is the project that I'll be casually working on for the next couple weeks as I continue to experiment in Alpha 8 and discover what other changes have been made, such as the mushrooms and the spice for the new plots. Mushrooms will be here, as you can see, with the name there. It will make it a bit longer to spawn the base, of course, because now, well, to complete the base, I should say, not actually to spawn it, but this base now with the additional towers has, I believe, I want to say it's 1676 plots off the top of my head. Let's take a brief look in the blueprints here, and let's see, this is where's my working blueprint? The T38 is the working copy here, but as you can see, there's 1556 of the concrete and another 120. So does that work out to, yeah, 1676 total here, plus 144 on the crypt, of course. So I will need to create roughly 1800 sprouts, which will be quite a bit of a longer process than simply spawning them and having them live. But such is the nature of alphas. They do change, and you have to change your routines and how to do things, of course. I am not sure what else we will see come to the game before it is physically live. As I am speaking to you currently, it is in part 5 of the alpha updates. Of course, they will certainly go through a couple iterations of release candidates, at the very least at the end, I'm sure. It's also occurred that I had overlooked another part here. See if I can get close enough to the edge, drop the drone down, since, as you may recall, this playfield, the space is really very warm, but I've also expanded some of the solar as well. If we can get through here without losing contact, you will see there are 2 new arrays off to the sides, one on the left and one to the right, under the new wings that have been expanded. So the base now has a total of 150 solar panels on it, plus some additional capacitors for extra storage for it. Since I have done that, the base has been running entirely on solar. It has kept up even with the turrets and constructors and gravity and all that on. As you can see, I am at 100% charge, but do keep in mind that I had adjusted the efficiency a bit. It is with this particular system, the solar energy appears to be less than it is in the average playfield, so that will continue to be adjusted as we proceed forward into Alpha 8. Currently, the base was not keeping up before. However, some of the land bases, I do believe, have remained at full charges, so I really think the efficiency I had turned up a bit too high, so we'll continue playing with the balance there. And of course that may change as well, because there are new blocks even on the solar end. There are now small blocks in Alpha 8 as well as the large blocks. They share the same solar panel count, which is now 15, by the way, not 20. Excuse me. Which is another change you should consider if you have bases that have 20 solar panels on them in your blueprints. You will not be able to spawn that in Alpha 8 either without removing at least 5. Otherwise, the blueprint will show as red. Really hard to say what else will change. We just don't know. In fact, we don't know exactly when it will come out. What I do know is that I'm okay. It's a world that's all wrong. It's just a matter of perspective. And with that, I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon after Alpha 8 is launched. Take care.